5 alien commanders mocked humanity until our warship cast its shadow. The void between stars held its breath as Helios Neutral Station rotated slowly against the cosmic canvas. Ancient and imposing, the massive structure served as neutral ground, where the galaxy's greatest military powers gathered once every solar cycle. Today marked the 847th Galactic War Council and the first time in recorded history that humans had been invited. Commander Ethan Cole stepped through the airlock with measured steps, his dark uniform bearing only the simple insignia of Earth's Defense Force. At 33, his face carried the weight of someone who had witnessed too many battles, too many losses. The scars on his hands told stories of desperate fights in the outer colonies, where humanity had learned to survive against impossible odds. The reception chamber buzzed with alien conversations as representatives from 5 major powers dominated the central platform. Admiral Korvax of the Shadari Collective stood like a living shadow, his ash-green skin shifting between translucent and opaque, while his 3 eyes tracked every movement in the room. His people had perfected stealth technology that could render entire fleets invisible. Beside him, Warlord Cathora towered above all others, her massive frame covered in red scales that gleamed like polished armor. The Craxian Imperium's greatest weapon, she commanded dreadnoughts capable of cracking planets. Her 4 arms crossed with casual arrogance as she surveyed the gathering. Strategist Merc's insectoid features twitched with calculated precision, his sharp mandibles clicking as he analyzed tactical formations through compound eyes. The Hive Convergence had turned swarm warfare into an art form deploying millions of autonomous drones in perfect synchronization. General Gralden resembled a walking mountain, his rock-like skin bearing the weight of centuries. The Stone Confederation's defensive technologies were legendary shields that had never been breached in 1,000 years of warfare. Archseer Lyra moved with ethereal grace, her slender form radiating an inner light that pulsed with her thoughts. The Luminary Ascendancy wielded powers of the mind that could break enemy morale before battles even began. The Galactic Mediator's voice echoed through the chamber without visible source. Representatives of the 5 powers, we welcome our newest participants. The Sol System Defense Force has earned their place through 30 years of faster-than-light capability. Whispers rippled through the assembly. Cathora's booming laugh cut through the murmur. The humans I've seen their colony ships barely armed cargo haulers. What do they hope to contribute to the galactic war against the Devourers? Ethan approached the central platform with quiet confidence. Commander Ethan Cole, representing Earth and her colonies. We're honored to participate in this council. Korvax's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement among his people. Your species has fought among yourselves for millennia, while we've defended against external threats. Do you even comprehend what the Devourer fleets represent? We understand extinction-level threats, Ethan replied simply. We've faced them before. The demonstration hall stretched across 3 levels of Helios Station, its transparent walls offering a panoramic view of the assembled fleets. Each alliance had positioned their most impressive vessels for display a show of force that had maintained galactic peace for centuries. Admiral Korvax activated his presentation first. The Phantom's Edge, he announced as a sleek vessel shimmered into visibility. Our latest stealth destroyer can phase shift between dimensions, striking without warning and vanishing before retaliation. The ship demonstrated its ability disappearing completely from all sensors before reappearing in an entirely different position. Cathora stepped forward next her massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Behold, World Shatter largest dreadnought ever constructed. The display showed a kilometer-long behemoth bristling with weapons. Its quantum cannons can split continents. No fortress has ever withstood its assault. Merc's mandibles clicked rapidly as swarm pods deployed from his command ship. The endless host, 10 million autonomous drones operating as a single mind. They adapt, they learn, they never retreat. The drone cloud moved like liquid metal through space, forming complex patterns that spoke of perfect coordination. General Grelden's presentation was more subdued, but no less impressive. The Aegis Prime, our ultimate defensive platform. Its quantum barriers have repelled every weapon known to galactic civilization. Energy fields cascaded around the massive station in brilliant displays of impenetrable protection. Finally, Archseer Lyra's vessel appeared smaller than the others, but radiating an otherworldly energy. The Mind Ripper breaks enemy resolve before battle begins. Fear, despair, hopelessness, we can project these emotions across entire star systems. The demonstration sent visible waves of discomfort through even the shielded observation deck. As each presentation concluded, eyes turned to Ethan. He stood quietly taking notes on a simple electronic pad, occasionally nodding with what appeared to be professional appreciation. "Your turn, human," Cathora rumbled. "Show us what Earth's finest warriors have managed to build." Ethan looked up from his notes with a slight smile. "Earth's contribution is still en route. It should arrive shortly." The alien commanders exchanged glances laden with meaning. Korvax's skin shifted to a deeper shade of green, a sign of growing amusement. "Your fleet is delayed." "Not delayed," Ethan corrected. "Careful. Some things require proper preparation." Strategist Merc's compound eyes reflected the light as he studied the human. "Perhaps your species doesn't understand the magnitude of what they've witnessed here today." Ethan's expression remained neutral. "We understand more than you might think." The alarm klaxons shattered the tense atmosphere as Helios Station's defense grid activated. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in pulsing red as the station's AI announced, "Unknown vessels approaching. Configuration matches Void Reaper pirate faction. All military personnel to action stations." Through the observation windows, 12 sleek raider ships emerged from hyperspace, their dark hulls scarred by countless battles. The pirates had chosen their moment well during the gathering of galactic powers when the station's defenses might be compromised by the presence of so many foreign vessels. Captain Sarah Monroe materialized beside Ethan as if from nowhere, her crisp uniform bearing the insignia of the HSS Behemoth. At 29, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had earned her rank through blood and determination rather than politics. "Orders, Commander," she asked, her voice carrying a slight edge of anticipation. "Standard defensive posture," Ethan replied calmly. "Protect the station and its inhabitants." The alien commanders were already coordinating their responses. Cathora barked orders to her fleet. "World Shatter, target the lead raider. Show these scavengers the price of insolence." But before the massive dreadnought could fire, something unexpected happened. The pirate ships suddenly stopped their advance, their formations breaking apart in confusion. Through the comm channels, panicked voices could be heard. "Something's jamming our navigation. Our weapons won't lock on. What is that shadow?" Admiral Korvax's 3 eyes widened as his sensors detected the anomaly. "Impossible. There's nothing there. Our stealth detection should pick up any cloaked vessel." Sarah touched her comm unit. "Wraith Squadron, you're cleared for engagement. Keep it clean." 12 human fighters appeared from what seemed like empty space, their angular forms materializing as if stepping out of the void itself. Unlike the curved, elegant designs favored by most species, these ships looked brutal and purposeful, all hard edges and aggressive lines. The engagement was swift and decisive. The human fighters moved with a precision that startled the watching alien commanders, using tactics that seemed to anticipate every pirate maneuver. Instead of brute force, they employed misdirection sensor ghosts that confused enemy targeting heat sinks, that made their ships disappear from thermal scans, and electronic warfare that turned the pirates' own systems against them. Within minutes, The raiders were disabled rather than destroyed, their crews captured alive. The human fighters reformed into perfect formation before vanishing once again into apparent nothingness. "Remarkable," whispered Archseer Lyra, her glowing eyes dimmed with concentration. "Their tactics, they're unlike anything in our databases. How did they predict the pirates' movements?" Ethan exchanged a glance with Sarah before answering. "Experience. Humanity has faced pirates before many times. We've learned to think like them." General Gralden's rocky features shifted into what might have been surprise. "Your fighters appeared and disappeared at will. That technology shouldn't be possible with your level of development." "We've had to be creative," Sarah replied with a slight smile. "When you're outnumbered and outgunned, you learn to use what you have more effectively." The implications began to sink in. These weren't the primitive warriors the aliens had expected. The humans had displayed coordination technology and tactical thinking that challenged assumptions about their capabilities. Merc's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "Your squadron worked as a single unit, yet maintained individual initiative. Our drones achieve similar coordination through direct neural link. How do your pilots manage such synchronization?" "Trust," Ethan said simply, "and shared experience." The aftermath of the pirate engagement should have been routine damage systems repaired, prisoners processed, incident reports filed through proper diplomatic channels. Instead, it became the moment that changed everything when the galaxy learned something fundamental about human nature that no amount of technological demonstration could have conveyed. Lieutenant Marcus Chen had been monitoring long-range sensors from his position in the human section of the station's command center when the readings first appeared. 28 years old, fresh from Earth's Naval Academy, with honors in xenobiology and tactical analysis, he'd volunteered for the deep space assignment specifically to prove himself worthy of serving alongside veterans like Cole and Monroe. His family had a long tradition of military service stretching back to Earth's early space colonization efforts. "Commander." Chen's voice carried a note of urgency that cut through the post-battle communications chatter. "I'm detecting massive energy signatures at the system's edge bearing 27 Mark IV. Configuration unknown, but the power levels are significant. Sir, these readings are off our measurement scales." The main display in the command center updated to show sensor readings that made everyone present pause in their activities. Whatever was approaching possessed energy outputs that dwarfed anything in the current Alliance fleets. Power signatures that suggested vessels of impossible size moving at velocities that challenged the known laws of physics. Admiral Korvax materialized beside the human command station, his stealth suit allowing him to move undetected through the chaos of post-engagement coordination. "These readings cannot be accurate. Nothing in known space generates that much power. Your sensors must be malfunctioning or misinterpreting some natural phenomenon." Before Ethan could respond, the source of the energy signatures revealed itself in a way that sent terror through every being on the station. From the darkness beyond the system's outer planets, ships began to emerge, but these weren't vessels of any known design or origin. They were organic in structure, twisted and vast beyond comprehension, their living hulls pulsing with malevolent energy that seemed to corrupt space itself around them. The Devourers had found Helios Station. The Galactic Mediator's voice carried a note of panic for the first time in its recorded history. "All military vessels prepare for immediate combat operations. This is not a drill. The Devourer Advance Fleet has arrived. Estimated enemy strength 27 bioships classification unknown. All civilian personnel evacuate to emergency positions immediately." 27 bioships materialized from hyperspace in a formation that spoke of alien intelligence beyond comprehension, their living hulls pulsing with patterns of light that hurt to look at directly. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, their surfaces writhing with tendrils that reached out like grasping fingers seeking prey. These were the galaxy's ultimate nightmare, a species that consumed entire worlds, converting all life into twisted versions of themselves that served their endless hunger. The bioships moved with organic grace that defied mechanical understanding, flowing through space like predators through water. Their very presence seemed to corrupt reality around them, causing sensor readings to fluctuate wildly and communication systems to emit sounds that resembled screaming. The Alliance fleets moved into defensive positions with practiced efficiency, but it was immediately clear they were facing something beyond their experience or capabilities. The lead Devourer ship fired a beam of pure entropy that aged Gralden's Aegis Prime by centuries in seconds, its quantum barriers collapsing under the assault of weaponized time itself. All stations, this is Admiral Korvax. Initiate emergency protocols Echo 7. We cannot hold this position against sustained assault. Recommend immediate evacuation of non-essential personnel. Cathora's World Shatter opened fire with its quantum cannons, the massive weapons scoring direct hits on the nearest bioship. The creature simply absorbed the energy, growing larger and more aggressive as it fed on the destructive force. Its hull rippled with new growth spawning weapon pods that began returning fire with beams of living energy that sought out targets with predatory intelligence. Merc's drone swarms engaged the enemy with desperate courage, millions of autonomous units coordinating attacks across multiple vectors. But the Devourers released spores that infected his autonomous units, turning them against their own fleet with horrifying efficiency. Within minutes, millions of drones were firing on Alliance vessels, while their corrupted programming sang twisted lullabies across all communication frequencies. It was then that Lieutenant Marcus Chen made his choice a decision that would echo through galactic history and fundamentally change how the alien powers understood human nature. The young officer had been monitoring a particular Devourer ship, one that seemed to be coordinating the other's movements through complex bioelectrical signals. His analysis suggested it was some kind of command node directing the assault through organic neural networks that connected the entire fleet. But it was protected by a living barrier that no conventional weapon had been able to penetrate. "Commander!" Chen called out, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. "I can get through their defenses, but it's a one-way trip. My fighter's equipped with a prototype quantum torpedo designed for penetrating biobarriers. If I can get close enough to the command vessel..." Ethan understood immediately what the young man was proposing. "Negative, Lieutenant. We'll find another way. There's always another way." "Sir, with respect, there isn't time." Chen was already moving toward the fighter bay, his movements carrying the purposeful determination of someone who had found his moment of truth. "My ship's equipped with the new quantum torpedo system. If I can get close enough to breach their command node, it might disrupt their coordination long enough for the fleets to escape." Sarah caught his arm as he passed her station. "Marcus, don't do this. We need you here. You're one of our best tactical analysts." The young man smiled, and for a moment his face showed not the fresh-faced academy graduate, but something older and sadder, the expression of someone who had always known this day would come. "Captain, my family died when the Centauri colonies fell to the harvest plague. I've been looking for a way to make that mean something ever since. This is it." Before anyone could stop him, Chen was gone, racing through corridors toward the fighter bay as the station shook under Devourer assault. His footsteps echoed with the rhythm of absolute determination. His ship launched moments later, a single human fighter against impossible odds. The alien commanders watched in stunned silence as the tiny vessel wove through space, dodging bioplasma bursts and organic missiles that sought to destroy it with living malevolence. Chen's voice came over the comm one last time, clear and calm, despite the forces arrayed against him. Tell them we remember everyone we've lost, and we never stop fighting for those who remain." The quantum torpedo detonated inside the command bioship with a flash of light that momentarily outshone the system's star. The explosion triggered a cascade reaction that spread through the entire Devourer fleet, like a virus of destruction disrupting the organic neural networks that bound them together. One by one, the massive vessels simply stopped. Their coordinated assault became confused retreat as they lost their guiding intelligence and fled back into the darkness between stars. In the silence that followed, Admiral Korvax spoke what they were all thinking. He saved us. That human child saved us all. Ethan's voice was quiet when he responded, carrying grief and pride in equal measure. He did what any of us would do, what any human would do when the stakes are high enough. Kathora's massive form turned toward the human commander, her red scales dim with something approaching awe. Your species fights without hope of survival. Why would anyone choose certain death for strangers? Because survival isn't the point. Ethan said, his words carrying the weight of centuries of human experience. The point is making sure something worth preserving continues to exist, even if we don't live to see it. The memorial service for Lieutenant Marcus Chen took place in Helios Station's central chamber, where representatives from all 5 alien powers gathered alongside the human delegation in an unprecedented display of interspecies respect. It was the first time in galactic history that Alliance species had honored a fallen warrior from outside their own fleets, marking a fundamental shift in how they perceived humanity's place in the cosmic order. The chamber itself had been transformed for the occasion. Crystalline formations grew from the walls in patterns that resonated with harmonics from dozens of different worlds, creating a symphony of light and sound that spoke to the universal nature of loss and honor. Representatives from every major species had contributed something to the memorial stones, from ancient battlefields, metals forged in stellar cores, crystals that held the memories of fallen heroes from across the galaxy. Archseer Lyra had insisted on leading the ceremony, her ethereal voice carrying across the assembled crowd with harmonics that touched the emotional centers of every species present. Today, we remember not just a soldier, but a soul who chose the needs of strangers over his own survival. This is a concept we thought we understood until we witnessed it in action and learned the difference between knowing and truly comprehending. General Gralden's rocky features had somehow conveyed solemnity as he placed a carved stone memorial beside Chen's empty uniform, a piece of his homeworld's bedrock inscribed with ancient symbols of honor and sacrifice. The Stone Confederation honors strength above all else, measuring worth by the ability to endure against impossible odds. Today we learned that strength comes in forms we had not recognized, and that the greatest fortresses are sometimes built not of stone, but of will. As the ceremony concluded, the alien commanders found themselves drawn into deeper conversation with Ethan and Sarah. The usual diplomatic distance had evaporated, replaced by something approaching genuine curiosity, and perhaps for the first time respect for a species they had previously dismissed as primitive newcomers. "Your Lieutenant Chen?" Strategist Merck began, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully as his tactical computers struggled to process behavioral patterns that defied standard psychological models. Our most advanced psychological profiles suggested such behavior was statistically impossible. Individual sacrifice for unknown entities contradicts all evolutionary imperatives and survival programming we've studied across hundreds of species. Sarah's expression hardened slightly, revealing depths of experience that hadn't been apparent during the diplomatic ceremonies. Maybe your psychological profiles don't account for what we've been through as a species. Maybe they don't factor in the kind of experiences that forge character in ways your models can't predict. Explain. Admiral Korvax requested, his skin shifting to a shade that indicated intense focus and growing respect among his people. What experiences could produce such behavioral patterns? What crucible could forge individuals willing to sacrifice themselves for beings they had never met? Ethan was quiet for a long moment before responding, his eyes distant, as if looking back through centuries of human history. How many extinction events has your species survived? Admiral, true extinction events, where your entire civilization hung by a thread and could have been snuffed out in a single moment. The Shadari have never faced true extinction, Korvax admitted with something approaching embarrassment. Our stealth technology has allowed us to avoid such conflicts to remain hidden when other species faced annihilation. The Craxian Imperium has never known defeat, Cathora added proudly, then paused as understanding began to dawn. Until today's encounter with the Devourers, we have always been the predators, never the prey. Ethan nodded slowly, his expression carrying the weight of hard-earned wisdom. In the last 500 years, humanity has faced extinction 17 times. Not conquest, not subjugation, not political defeat, complete annihilation of our species. Events where fewer than 1 million humans survived, sometimes fewer than 10,000 scattered across dead worlds and dying space stations. The alien commanders exchanged glances of disbelief that slowly transformed into horror as the implications sank in. Archseer Lyra's glow dimmed as she processed what she was hearing. 17 times! How is this possible? What forces could threaten a species so repeatedly? Nuclear warfare that turned continents into glass. Biological weapons that rewrote our DNA and turned our own bodies against us. AI rebellion, where our machines decided we were inefficient and needed to be replaced. Environmental collapse that poisoned entire worlds. Asteroid impacts that blocked out the sun for decades. Solar flares that stripped away our atmosphere. Resource wars that consumed entire continents until nothing remained but ash and bones. Sarah's voice carried the weight of historical memory, each tragedy carved into human consciousness like scars on the species' soul. Each time we survived by the smallest margins, sometimes less than 10,000 individuals keeping our species alive in hidden bunkers or damaged ships fleeing through deep space. Every survival was bought with sacrifice, with people choosing to die so that others might live. But why continue fighting? General Gralden rumbled, his rocky voice carrying genuine confusion. After such repeated devastation, why not seek peaceful solutions? Why not find ways to avoid conflict entirely? We tried, Ethan replied with quiet intensity. Peace is what we wanted most. But the universe doesn't always offer that choice. Sometimes you fight, or you die. And sometimes you fight knowing you'll die anyway, but hoping your death might buy time for others to find a better solution. Merc's compound eyes reflected the light as he calculated probabilities and patterns, his tactical mind struggling to process the implications. 17 near extinctions would create tremendous evolutionary pressure for specific behavioral traits, strategic thinking under extreme stress, technological adaptation at accelerated rates, willingness to sacrifice for group survival, and above all the ability to function effectively when death is not just possible, but probable. It would create warriors. Cathora finished her red scales, shifting as understanding dawned like a sunrise across her massive form. Not warriors who fight for glory or conquest, but warriors who fight because they understand the alternative. Warriors who have looked into the abyss and learned to stare back without blinking. Korvax moved closer, his 3 eyes studying Ethan with newfound intensity and something approaching awe. Your species developed such advanced military technology because you needed it to survive. Every innovation was born from necessity, every advance paid for in blood. More than that, Sarah said, her voice carrying the pride of someone who had helped carry that torch forward. We developed it because we learned that being unprepared means watching everyone you love die while being powerless to stop it. The technologies you witness today, stealth systems, electronic warfare, tactical coordination, we didn't create them to impress anyone. We created them because we had to, because the alternative was extinction. Archseer Lyra's voice carried a note of something approaching reverence. You've turned survival into an art form refined through repetition and perfected through necessity. We've turned survival into a science, Ethan corrected with quiet dignity. Every battle we've fought, every war we've survived taught us something new about staying alive when the odds say you should be dead. We've studied warfare the way your species studied peace, with the dedication of those who know that mastery is the only alternative to annihilation. The silence that followed was heavy with implication and new understanding. These weren't the primitive newcomers the Alliance had expected. These were the survivors of a crucible that had forged something unique in the galaxy, a species that combined advanced technology with an unbreakable will to endure, tempered by the knowledge that survival sometimes required ultimate sacrifice. Finally, General Grolden spoke. The Devourers have never been stopped before today. Their advanced fleets have consumed entire sectors, turning flourishing civilizations into twisted mockeries of life. How did you know the quantum torpedo would work against their command structure? We didn't, Sarah admitted with brutal honesty. But Marcus analyzed their biosignatures and identified what looked like a neural coordination node based on patterns we'd seen before. He made an educated guess based on our experience fighting hive mind entities, and he was willing to bet his life on that guess. You fought similar enemies before, Merrick asked Mandibles, clicking with agitation as his tactical model struggled to incorporate this new information. 3 times! Ethan said, simply each word carrying the weight of battles fought in the darkness between stars. Twice against AI networks that achieved sentience and decided organic life was inefficient. Once against a parasitic species that tried to colonize our outer worlds by converting human biology to serve their reproductive needs. We learned that coordination networks always have vulnerabilities. You just have to be willing to exploit them regardless of the cost. Kathora's massive frame shifted as she processed this information, her warrior's mind finally understanding what they were dealing with. Your Lieutenant Chen didn't just sacrifice himself randomly. He made a strategic decision based on military experience and tactical analysis. It was a calculated risk taken by someone who understood the consequences. He did what he was trained to do, Ethan confirmed with quiet pride. What all our soldiers are trained to do: assess the situation, identify the critical target, and take whatever action necessary to complete the mission. The mission always comes first, because failure means everyone dies. The alien commanders were beginning to understand. This wasn't just courage or recklessness. It was the product of systematic military thinking, developed through centuries of existential struggle, refined by necessity, and perfected through repetition. The strategic planning session had been underway for 3 hours when Ethan made his decision. The alien commanders had been debating response protocols to the Devourer threat, their discussions revealing the fundamental problem facing the galaxy. Despite their impressive individual capabilities, they had never fought a coordinated war against an extinction-level threat that adapted and evolved with each encounter. The war room itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, featuring displays and interfaces designed to accommodate the sensory preferences of multiple species. Holographic projections showed tactical data in formats ranging from visual light spectrums to quantum resonance patterns, while translation systems rendered strategic concepts into mathematical frameworks that transcended linguistic barriers. The bioships will return in greater numbers. Merck calculated his mandibles clicking as he processed tactical data through quantum computers linked directly to his nervous system. Our mathematical models suggest the next wave will consist of at least 200 vessels, possibly more. Their retreat pattern indicates they were conducting reconnaissance, gathering data on our capabilities and defensive strategies. General Grolden's rocky features conveyed grim determination as gravitational sensors around his homeworld transmitted real-time defense assessments. The Aegis Prime took 17% damage from a single entropy beam, lasting less than 30 seconds. We cannot withstand sustained assault from that many Devourers, especially if they've adapted countermeasures to our quantum barriers. Admiral Korvax's skin had shifted to deep blue, a sign of serious concern among his people that indicated stress levels approaching critical thresholds. Our stealth technology provides temporary advantage, but the bioships adapt quickly to new threats. They will develop countermeasures to our cloaking systems, just as they have to every other defensive measure employed against them. Cathora pounded the table with one massive fist, the impact causing ripples through the quantum-stabilized surface. Then we evacuate the core worlds and establish defensive perimeters at the galactic rim. Fight a delaying action while we develop new weapons and strategies. Fall back to prepared positions and make them pay for every light year. That strategy will cost billions of lives. Archseer Lyra pointed out her ethereal glow, dimming with distress, as she processed the emotional resonance of such massive casualties. Entire civilizations will be consumed, while we retreat their suffering echoing across the psychic networks that connect all sentient life. Back to Zurium. Ethan had been silent throughout the discussion, studying tactical displays and probability assessments with the focused attention of someone accustomed to making decisions under impossible pressure. His fingers moved across the human interface systems, with practiced efficiency, calling up data streams that painted an increasingly grim picture of galactic preparedness. Finally, he spoke. "There's another option." The alien commanders turned to him with expressions ranging from hope to skepticism. Sarah noticed the subtle change in her commander's posture. She'd seen that look before in the darkest moments of humanity's colonial wars, when conventional tactics had failed and desperate measures became the only path to survival. "Commander," Korvax prompted, his three eyes focusing with laser intensity on the human officer. Ethan touched his comm unit with deliberate precision. "Captain Monroe, initiate Revelation Protocol. Authorization Col 77 Alpha. Begin approach sequence and prepare for full tactical display." Sarah's eyes widened slightly as she recognized the code designation, but she followed orders without hesitation. Her training had emphasized the critical importance of maintaining operational security until the moment of revelation. "Understood, sir. Transmitting coordinates to the Behemoth now. Estimated arrival time 18 minutes. The alien commanders exchanged confused glances, their various sensory organs detecting subtle changes in electromagnetic fields and gravitational patterns that suggested something massive was moving through nearby space. Cathora leaned forward, her red scales shifting to darker shades that indicated growing alertness. "What is Revelation Protocol? What have you been concealing from this council?" Before Ethan could answer, the station's sensors began registering massive gravitational anomalies at the system's edge. The main display updated to show energy readings that defied conventional understanding, suggesting the presence of something so large that it warped space-time around itself simply by existing. "Impossible!" General Gralden rumbled, his voice carrying undertones of awe and disbelief. "Nothing that large could have remained hidden from our sensors. The gravitational distortions alone should have been detectable from light years away. Long-range stealth is one of our specialties." Sarah explained, monitoring the incoming data with professional calm that contrasted sharply with the alarm spreading through the alien delegation. "The Behemoth has been holding position in the system's shadow zone for the past 18 hours, using a combination of gravitational lensing and quantum phase variance to remain undetected." Strategist Mirk's compound eyes reflected the display readings as he calculated mass and energy signatures through processing centers that operated at near-light speed. "These readings suggest a vessel of unprecedented size, possibly larger than our largest space stations. How did you construct something that massive without detection by galactic monitoring systems?" "Very carefully," Ethan replied with understated precision. "And very quietly. Earth's shipyards operate under strict communication protocols, and our construction techniques favor efficiency over spectacle. The gravitational distortions intensified as something enormous began emerging from the darkness beyond the outer planets. At first, it appeared as merely a shadow against the stars, a void where light seemed to disappear entirely. Then, the shape began to resolve itself, and the alien commanders fell silent as comprehension dawned. The HSS Behemoth was not just large, it was a redefinition of what constituted a warship. Where alien vessels favored curves and flowing lines that spoke of aesthetic philosophy, the Behemoth was angular brutality made manifest. Its hull stretched across kilometers of space, its dark surface seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an optical effect that made it appear larger and more menacing than even its massive size suggested. "By the void!" Admiral Korvax whispered, his three eyes tracking the massive vessel as it moved with impossible grace for something so vast. How is such a thing even possible? The engineering challenges alone should have made construction impossible. Weapon ports covered the Behemoth's hull in patterns that spoke of systematic destruction planned and implemented with mathematical precision. Launch bays large enough to house entire fleets opened along its flanks like the mouths of metal giants. Energy signatures indicated fusion reactors, powerful enough to supply entire star systems, while defensive systems suggested shielding capabilities that could withstand direct stellar bombardment. But it was the ship's sheer presence that truly stunned the alien commanders. This wasn't just a weapon, it was a statement of intent, a declaration that humanity had moved far beyond the primitive species they had imagined. The Behemoth represented a level of technological achievement and industrial capability that challenged every assumption about human development. Cathora's massive form had gone completely still, her red scales pale with shock as her warrior's mind struggled to process what she was seeing. That single vessel, it's larger than our entire battle fleet combined. How did you achieve such construction capabilities without detection? The Behemoth is one of 6 Titan-class warships in Earth's deep space fleet. Sarah explained with professional calm that concealed the pride in her voice. It was designed specifically for fleet engagement and planetary defense against extinction-level threats. Each vessel represents 15 years of focused engineering and construction. Archseer Lyra's ethereal glow had dimmed to barely visible levels as she processed the implications through psychic networks that connected her to the collective consciousness of her people. 6. You've built 6 ships of this magnitude, the resources required, the industrial infrastructure needed. We've built what we needed, Ethan replied with quiet conviction. The outer colonies are 300 light-years from Earth across multiple star systems. Traditional naval doctrine suggested we needed the capability to defend multiple star systems simultaneously against any conceivable threat. Merc's mandibles clicked rapidly as his tactical computers processed the Behemoth specifications, comparing them to every known weapons system in galactic databases. The energy output from its reactors alone exceeds our most optimistic projections for your technological level. How did you achieve such advancement without galactic assistance or technology sharing? Necessity, Sarah said simply. When your species is scattered across dozens of star systems, and any one of them might face annihilation without warning, you learn to build ships that can stand alone against anything the universe might throw at them. The Behemoth had settled into a stable orbit around Helios Station, its massive bulk blocking out sections of the starfield and casting shadows across the assembled alien fleets. Alliance vessels that had seemed impressive hours earlier now looked like escort craft beside the human Titan, their proportions reduced to insignificance by the sheer scale of human engineering achievement. General Gralden's voice carried a note of awe mixed with growing unease. Your ship could engage our entire combined fleet and emerge victorious. The tactical implications are staggering. That's not why it's here, Ethan said firmly, his voice carrying absolute conviction. The Behemoth was designed to fight devourers or anything else that threatens inhabited worlds. Its weapons systems were specifically developed for engaging large-scale bioship formations and other extinction-level threats that conventional weapons cannot handle. Admiral Korvax's skin had shifted to a shade none of them had seen before, a mixture of respect and wariness that indicated his people's recognition of a new apex predator. "You've been preparing for this conflict without informing the Galactic Council. How long have you known about the Devourer threat?" "We've been preparing for every possible conflict," Sarah corrected with quiet intensity. "The Devourers are just one scenario we planned for. Our strategic databases include countermeasures for 47 different extinction-level threats." Cathora found her voice again, though it carried a tremor of uncertainty that betrayed her growing understanding of humanity's true nature. "What other scenarios have you prepared for?" Ethan's expression grew serious as he met each alien commander's gaze in turn. "Galactic conquest by hostile civilizations, species extinction through biological warfare, AI rebellion on a galactic scale, dimensional invasion from parallel realities, solar system collapse due to stellar engineering failures, the complete breakdown of interstellar civilization." He paused, letting the implications sink in. "We learned early in our history that hoping for the best while preparing for the worst is the only sustainable survival strategy." The implications were staggering, reshaping everything the alien commanders thought they knew about human development and capabilities. Humanity hadn't just stumbled into advanced military technology, they had systematically developed it based on comprehensive threat assessment that spanned every conceivable nightmare scenario, creating contingency plans for disasters that other species had never even imagined. Archseer Lyra's voice was barely audible, carrying the weight of revelation that challenged her species' understanding of the universe. "You've been alone in the darkness fighting monsters we never knew existed, preparing for wars we never imagined possible." "Not fighting," Ethan said quietly, his words carrying the authority of absolute truth. "Preparing to fight. There's a fundamental difference between reactive defense and proactive preparation, and that difference is often measured in the survival of entire civilizations." The tour of the HSS Behemoth began in its primary hangar bay, a vast cathedral of metals and purpose that could house the entire Helios station fleet. The alien commanders moved in stunned silence, their eyes tracking the orderly rows of fighters, bombers, and support craft that filled the enormous space. Captain Sarah Monroe led the group with professional efficiency, her voice echoing in the massive chamber. The Behemoth carries a standard complement of 12,000 auxiliary craft, including 400 heavy fighters, 600 interceptors, and 2,000 support vessels. Strategist Merck's mandibles clicked in disbelief. 2,000 support vessels. Our largest carrier holds 50 craft total. Different design philosophy, Sarah explained. The Behemoth was built for extended independent operations. Everything needed for a 3-year deployment is contained within the ship itself. They proceeded through corridors that seemed to stretch for kilometers, past fusion reactors that hummed with barely contained stellar fury, through workshops where human technicians maintained weapon systems that redefined destructive capability. Admiral Korvax stopped before a bank of displays showing the ship's stealth capabilities. "These readings suggest you can hide something this massive from detection. That should be physically impossible." "Difficult, not impossible," Sarah replied. "The Behemoth uses layered stealth gravitational dampening quantum phase, shifting, and electromagnetic absorption. It can remain undetected even at close range." General Grulden studied the structural engineering displays with growing amazement. "The internal framework, you've essentially built a mobile space station with military capabilities exceeding anything in our databases." They entered the weapons control center where human officers monitored systems that made the alien commander's most advanced weaponry seem primitive by comparison. Rows of displays tracked targeting solutions, energy distribution, and ammunition reserves that spoke of preparation for sustained conflict. Primary armament consists of 18 Nova-class particle accelerators. Sarah continued, each cannon can punch through 10 kilometers of solid metal. Secondary systems include quantum torpedo batteries, plasma lance arrays, and kinetic bombardment platforms. Kathora's red scales had gone pale as she processed the implications. Those weapons, they could crack planets. They were designed to destroy Devourer bioships, Sarah corrected. But yes, they could crack planets if necessary. Archseer Lyra floated closer to examine the targeting computers. The precision required to operate so many weapons systems simultaneously. How does your crew coordinate such complexity? Training, Sarah said simply. Every officer aboard this ship has spent years learning their systems. We don't believe in shortcuts when lives depend on performance. The medical bay revealed another aspect of human military thinking preparation for casualties, on a scale that sobered even battle-hardened commanders. Treatment facilities designed for thousands of wounded surgical suites, equipped for every conceivable injury, and automated systems capable of functioning even if the medical staff were incapacitated. You expect significant losses, Merck observed. We prepare for significant losses, Sarah corrected. There's a difference between expectation and preparation. The ship's intelligence center displayed tactical databases that contained detailed analyses of every known threat in the galaxy, and many that were purely theoretical. Devourer bioship formations, rogue AI networks, dimensional anomalies, and stellar phenomena that could be weaponized. Your species has cataloged every possible threat scenario. Admiral Korvax mused, his three eyes tracking through the endless data streams. Everyone we could think of, Sarah confirmed. Our war colleges spend decades developing response protocols for threats that may never materialize, but it was the Memorial Hall that finally brought home the true nature of humanity's approach to warfare. Thousands of names covered the walls, soldiers who had died defending human colonies, scientists who had sacrificed themselves for breakthrough technologies, civilians who had given their lives to save others. Commander Ethan Cole stood before the central memorial, his weathered face reflecting memories of battles fought across the scattered human worlds. Every name here represents someone who died so that humanity could survive one more day. Lieutenant Chen's name will be added to this wall when we return to Earth. The alien commanders stood in respectful silence, finally understanding the source of human military capability. This wasn't aggression or conquest. It was the systematic application of hard-learned lessons written in blood and loss. General Gralden's rocky voice carried unusual softness. Your entire military philosophy is built on remembering the dead. Built on honoring their sacrifice, Ethan corrected. Every weapons system on this ship, every tactical doctrine we've developed, every piece of technology we've created, all of it exists because someone died learning what we needed to know. Kathora's massive frame shook slightly as emotion broke through her warrior's facade. You've turned grief into strength. We've turned experience into wisdom, Sarah said. The difference is that wisdom can be shared. The tour concluded on the Behemoth's bridge, where human officers maintained vigilant watch over systems that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. Through the massive viewports, Helios Station looked small and fragile against the cosmic backdrop. Archseer Lyra's ethereal glow had returned to full intensity as understanding crystallized in her mind. You built all of this, the ships, the weapons, the technology not to conquer, but to ensure your species never faces extinction again. Correct, Ethan confirmed. The Behemoth and ships like it exist for one purpose: to make sure that humanity's children have a future worth inheriting. Admiral Korvax's skin had shifted to a color none of them had seen before, deep respect mixed with profound understanding. Your species has transformed suffering into strength loss, into preparation, defeat, into determination. We've learned, Ethan said simply, and we've remembered. Every battle taught us something. Every loss made us stronger. Every victory reminded us what we were fighting to preserve. As they prepared to return to Helios Station, strategist Mirk turned back to survey the bridge one last time. This changes everything we thought we knew about warfare. You haven't just built ships, you've built a philosophy of survival that transcends individual conflicts. That's the point, Sarah replied. Ships can be destroyed, weapons can be countered, technology can be surpassed. But the will to survive, the determination to protect what matters, that's something that can't be defeated by any enemy. The shuttle bay doors opened to reveal the starfield beyond, where the combined Alliance fleets had arranged themselves in a new formation, not as separate powers displaying individual might, but as a unified force with humanity's massive warships at the center. Ethan's final words echoed in the shuttle as they departed. The Devourers aren't just threatening your worlds, they're threatening the future of intelligence in this galaxy. Humanity has spent centuries learning how to fight impossible odds. Now we'd like to share what we've learned. The Galactic War Council had begun with 5 alien powers, mockingly welcoming primitive humans to their ranks. It ended with the recognition that humanity had become something unique, a species that had transformed the crucible of near extinction into the foundation for unbreakable strength. Among the stars where ancient civilizations had maintained peace through balance, a new element had emerged. Not conquerors or subjects, but guardians forged in fire and tempered by loss, ready to teach the galaxy what it truly meant to fight for survival. The memorial walls of Helios Station would soon bear a new inscription: Humanity, born in darkness, refined by loss, unbroken by despair. The smallest species with the largest hearts carrying within them the eternal legend of those who refuse to surrender. In sci-fi stories across the galaxy, they would remember this day, when the underestimated became the irreplaceable, when mockery transformed into respect, and when the newest members of the galactic community revealed themselves as its most experienced warriors. This is just the beginning of humanity's story among the stars. If you want to see how these unlikely guardians reshape the galaxy and face the ultimate test against the Devourers, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more epic sci-fi stories that explore what happens when the underestimated become unstoppable. The universe is vast, but some legends echo across every star.